Today, we are diving into one of the most incredible stories of preservation in human history, the story of the Holy Qur'an. We're going to explore how this sacred text was compiled, piece by piece, and why that process is so absolutely central to the Islamic faith.
So just think about that for a second. This was the massive question facing the very first Muslims. We're not just talking about writing a book here. This was about safeguarding what they believed to be the final, unchanged word of God, forever, for everyone. It's a huge challenge, right? Let's get into how they did it.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at how the revelations were recorded in the very beginning. Then we'll see the crisis that led to the first actual book. After that, we'll cover the effort to standardize the text for a growing global community. And finally, we'll talk about why all this history matters so much today.
All right, so our story starts during the life of the Prophet Muhammad himself. Now, capturing a divine message as it's happening, well, that came with some pretty unique challenges back in 7th century Arabia.
First things first, we need to understand a really important concept, Wahi. That's the Arabic word for divine revelation. The belief is that this wasn't the prophet's own thinking or writing. Instead, it was a direct message from God, delivered by the Angel Jibril over 23 years. And what's crucial here is that the prophet was unlettered, meaning he couldn't read or write, so he couldn't just jot it all down himself.
So you're probably wondering, how did they record any of this? Well, the main way was through memorization. See, in that culture, memory was a highly respected skill. But they didn't just rely on memory. Scribes would also write down the verses on, well, whatever they could get their hands on. Flat stones, animal bones, palm leaves, even bits of pottery. So what you had was this scattered collection of sacred writings, but not a single bound book. Not yet.
Okay, so after the prophet passed away, a terrible crisis hits the community, and it forces them to face this terrifying possibility that parts of the Quran could be lost forever. This event is what triggers the first ever official project to compile the Quran into one volume. That crisis was the Battle of Yamama. It was a really fierce battle, and a huge number of the Huffaz were killed. Now, the Huffaz were the companions who had memorized the entire Quran. They were, in a way, the living hard drives of the revelation, and suddenly, dozens of them were gone. The community's living archive was in real danger. You can almost feel the urgency. A senior companion, Hazrat Umar, saw the danger immediately. He went to the Caliph, Abu Bakr, and begged him to authorize an official compilation. Now, Abu Bakr was hesitant at first. He didn't want to do something the Prophet himself hadn't done, but he was eventually convinced it was absolutely necessary. So they gave the massive job to the Prophet's chief scribe, a man named Zayd ibn Thaib. And Zayd's own words really tell you everything you need to know about the weight of this responsibility. He said the task felt heavier than moving an entire mountain. He knew he wasn't just collecting scraps of writing. He was piecing together the Word of God. There was absolutely zero room for error.
The result of all this incredibly hard work was the first ever master manuscript of the Quran, and Zayd's process was super rigorous. He didn't just take people's word for it. He gathered every written fragment he could find and then cross-checked every single verse with multiple memorizers. This final, verified master copy became known as the Mushafi Hafsa.
So, they have this priceless manuscript. Who do you trust to keep it safe? Well, it was entrusted to Hafsa bint Umar. She was one of the Prophet's widows, the daughter of the future Caliph Umar, and a respected scholar herself. Her guardianship kept the master text safe and sound for the future.
Now you'd think, okay, problem solved, right? Well, the story's not over. As the Muslim community, the Ummah, grew at an incredible speed, a whole new problem popped up, and it needed an even bigger solution.
The Muslim world was just exploding in size, spreading into places like Persia, Syria, and Egypt. This meant tons of new converts who didn't grow up speaking Arabic. And while this diversity was amazing for the community, it created a challenge nobody saw coming.
You see, the Quran was revealed in the Quraysh dialect of Arabic, which was spoken in Mecca. But as new people learned it, they started reciting it with their own accents, their own little variations. And this started causing arguments. People were saying, no, my way is the right way. This kind of disagreement was a real threat to the unity of the faith.
This is where the third caliph, Othman, steps in. He saw this problem brewing and knew he had to act decisively. He called on Zayd ibn Thabit again to lead another committee. Their job? To take that original master copy, the Mushafi Hafsa, and use it to produce several official copies, all standardized to the Quraysh dialect. These were then sent out to all the major cities of the empire. And then came the really tough part. Othman ordered all other personal copies with variations to be burned to prevent any confusion forever.
This bold move was a complete game changer. It resulted in a single, universally accepted text of the Qur'an. And here's the amazing part. The Qur'an you see today is the exact same one finalized back then, whether you're in Cairo or Kuala Lumpur.
So, after all that incredible history, we get to the most important question of all. Why does this whole complicated process, this meticulous preservation, matter so much to more than 1 billion Muslims around the world today?
This really is the heart of it. That incredible effort by the first generations of Muslims wasn't just some historical tidying up. It has a profound, living meaning right now, in the 21st century. It all really boils down to 3 huge things. First, unity. A Muslim in Canada and a Muslim in Nigeria are reading the exact same Arabic text. It's a powerful unifier. Second, it serves as the ultimate reference point, the pure, uncorrupted source for Islamic beliefs and laws. And finally, for believers, it offers a direct line to divine guidance that hasn't changed one bit in over 1,400 years. And that brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. Just try to imagine for a second if that effort had failed, if there were multiple, conflicting versions of the Quran out there. How different would the history of Islam, and honestly, the history of the world be? It really makes you appreciate the foresight of that early community.
Hey, if you found this explainer helpful in understanding this incredible story, do us a favor and hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe to Spotwork Learning for more. Thanks so much for watching.